Good afternoon. I'm going to get started here. I'm overwhelmed by the attendance. I'm thrilled that every table is full of people. So being in the arts at a tech convention is a bit like being a drag queen at a Baptist convention, apparently. So who's a big arts fan here? Are you guys here because you love ballet, opera, theater, performing arts? That's awesome. I do too. So my name is Erik Gensler. I am the founder of Capacity Interactive. We are a digital marketing agency that focuses almost exclusively on building digital tools and helping our clients sell more tickets. And our clients are ballets, operas, theaters, performing arts centers, and museums. So we are based in New York. Any other New Yorkers here? Oh, great. Our office is the green building right there. We are on Broadway, just north of Houston Street, so we're in Soho. We're a small team of about 12 people, and we do everything from digital advertising to helping our clients with website redesign, project management, social strategy, email strategy, basically everything digital. And the arts, in the past and historically, and it's certainly changing, but have not necessarily been, data-driven. And I think the transition to digital has been challenging for many organizations. There are some organizations that are really, really strong at it, but it's definitely been a slower evolution. And so it's been really fun to work in this space and help our clients really embrace digital and, take digital tools that used to be really scary and overwhelming and really help them use them to sell tickets and raise more money. Because that's what we really need to do, is put more butts in the seats and raise more money. So helping the development department raise more money, the marketing department sell more tickets and subscriptions. So our tagline is, we help arts organizations use interactive tools to engage audiences, build community, and market smarter. This is an overview of some of the clients we work with. I'd say about half of our clients are New York-based, and then the rest are around the country. We're international. We have one Canadian client, but ballets, operas, theaters, performing arts centers, and we're now getting more involved in the museum space. Who's gone to one of these institutions before? At least one. Great. So the way I met Gabe is I started a conference for my sector, and it's called Digital Marketing Bootcamp for the Arts. We do it every October and November in New York City, and I'm always looking for really great speakers to come teach our people from our community and our vertical. And I saw Gabe at the TEDx conference and was really impressed with what he was talking about. And so I said, Gabe, will you come speak at our boot camp in October or November? He said, yes, if you come to the Gamification Summit in San Francisco, I will do that. So we sort of did a swap, and here I am. I actually spent last week on my bicycle biking from San Francisco to Los Angeles as part of AIDS Life Cycle. It's the 5th year I've done this. Yeah. All right. So my butt is, I think, recovered. And I'm not wearing spandex, which is awesome. And I slept in a normal bed, which is great. So that was the halfway point. And that's my team of riders that I trained with. So before I get into the examples of gamification in the art, I wanted to just talk about a fundamental shift of communication. Who are the marketers in the room? Okay. Tech people, developers? No? So this is a framework in which we approach a lot of our client work and our strategic consulting. And we look at the change in communication over the past 15 to 20 years with the advent of digital communications. And this is the theory of Seth Godin, and Seth actually presented at our conference a few years ago. Who knows about permission marketing? Okay, great, not as many as I thought. It's a really amazing framework to sort of understand. It's a framework of marketing that really works well for our clients in the business of selling tickets. Well, Seth Godin, so permission marketing you contrast with what he calls interruption marketing, which is traditional media and marketing as you've known it for probably the last 100 years. So he looks at a funnel and he says the funnel is, the top of the funnel is a media budget, and it's the amount of people you can interrupt. So how many newspaper ads can you take? How many radio ads can you take? And when someone's reading the newspaper, reading the New York Times, and they see an ad, essentially, for years, marketers paid the New York Times to interrupt people, and hopefully enough people would come through that funnel and come out the bottom and were customers. And many people jumped out of the side of the funnel, they weren't customers. But if you spend enough money interrupting enough people, you're going to get enough customers, it's going to be a profitable cycle, and that continued for years and years and years. And that worked because consumers had very little control of their media, right? If you wanted to watch I Love Lucy, you were going to see the commercials that came because you wanted to catch the beginning of the next segment. If you were going to want to get the news and be an informed person, you had to listen to the radio and you would hear the commercials. Or if you wanted to read the newspaper, there would be commercials there. So what happened in the last 15 years is consumers now have way more control of their media, right? This is not revolutionary, but the TiVo happened and destroyed a multi-billion-dollar industry, or is in the process of. That you can argue about that later. But Spotify and Pandora and Songza, they're all taking on traditional radio. That's very traditional advertiser fueled. Consumers can now have the delete button. So the point of that is we are really in control of the media we consume, so that requires a fundamental different way of thinking about how we connect with our audiences, right? So instead of just buying our way to interruption, we have to think about that in a more strategic way. And this is going to get into gaming, I promise. So when you look at interruption marketing, as what I just described, I want to turn the flip side of that is permission-based marketing. So with traditional advertising, when you're going to the New York Times and say, I want to buy an ad, you're essentially renting their audience, right? You're saying, I think the people who are reading the theater section of the New York Times are great prospects for what I'm selling, so I'm going to buy an ad in that space, and I'm renting an audience. And each time I want to speak to that audience, I have to go back and rent. I have to keep saying to the New York Times, take another $100,000, and here's another $100,000. And so it's a virtuous cycle for the media outlets. It's a really rough cycle for the organizations that are constantly spending money. So what we recommend is permission marketing, which is turning strangers into friends, friends into customers, and customers into evangelists, right? So, and that is Seth Godin's quote. So I did not make this up. I just think it's really smart and makes a lot of sense across lots of different verticals for marketing, particularly in the arts. So how does that work? Well, first you have to have great content. So we work with our clients on creating great YouTube videos and blog posts and really great emails. So people are engaged. And when people are engaged, you could then ask them for an email address or a social follow, or you can put a remarketing pixel on their site so you have the ability to speak to them in the future. And then you can send permission-based communications, which is really engaging communications on social or on email. And then ideally you'll get a ticket sale, and the experience will be so great that people will be thrilled. They'll talk about you on these channels, they'll forward the emails, they'll be on social, and the pattern will repeat. So in the gamification examples I'm going to present, this has really been the framework and why we went into building these tools, because they work within this framework really quite well. Does that make sense? Okay, I haven't lost anybody yet. Good. So who knows Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater? Anyone? One or two? Who's seen Ailey? Awesome. So Ailey is one of our first clients. We've been handling their digital since 2008, and it's probably the largest and most popular modern dance company in the country. This is from their piece Revelations, which was Alvin Ailey's masterpiece. Even Oprah Winfrey said you have to, every American owes it themselves to see Revelations at least once. And it talks about the perseverance of African Americans during slavery, and it uses blues and gospel. And it's really, really just an incredible work. It's really the core piece of the Ailey repertoire. But Ailey does works by all different choreographers, from Mr. Ailey to modern choreographers. The company is incredibly athletic and beautiful, and it's really, if Ailey ever comes to your town, do yourself a favor and buy a ticket. So the company tours the world. They do a big US tour in major cities, and they spend 5 weeks in New York City. And so this is the challenge where we've used gamification. And so they perform at New York City Center, which is a gorgeous theater in Midtown Manhattan, and we do a ton of traditional and digital advertising. And we're really trying to get people back, but we're trying to acquire new audiences. It's a big challenge in the arts. Audiences are aging out. The people that typically will pay a lot of money for theater tickets or subscriptions aren't coming as much anymore. So how do we attract a new audience? And it's very, very challenging. And it's particularly challenging to get people who will purchase in the middle price point. We can sell the cheaper seats to students. The more expensive seats, there are people who are very loyal to the arts, but when you get in the middle price point, it's very challenging. So faced with the challenge, those following things, the middle seat challenge, the new audiences, and the declining older audience, and the confusion when coming to buy theater for the first time, we created this tool. So when you first come to the ALE website, you're faced with something like this, which is laying out all the different performances. So you've come, you decide you're going to go, and it lists all the dates. ALE is actually at Lincoln Center right now, and I took this from their website. And admittedly, this is not the best experience because especially for someone who doesn't know the company, you're listed with these dates, but you're also listed with different pieces of rep that they're going to perform. And it's a little overwhelming because if you don't know what that rep means, if you have no context to put it in, you don't know what to buy. And at the same time we were doing this, the company had a major change of artistic leadership. Judith Jamison, who was the company's artistic director, was leaving, and Robert Battle, who is sort of a new up-and-coming modern dance choreographer, was taking over the company. So faced with all that, we created this tool called Ask Robert Battle. So what we wanted to do was introduce Robert Battle as the head of the company with Judith Jamison, who's beloved, was leaving. And then we also wanted to create a tool that made it really easy for people who had no history or background with Alvin Ailey to come in and select what performance they should see. And so we turned it a gamification tool. We didn't develop this. We work with a partner called Situation Interactive. That's a development shop that we work with on a lot of stuff like this. And together we came up with this idea. So it's sort of like a personal concierge helping you pick the performance that you want to see. So you go in here, you say, click Get Started, and it asks you a series of questions. So the first one is, how familiar are you with ALE? So here we'll say, I've been a few times. Second question, what kind of experience are you looking for? A date night, this is selected. Which is most important to you? Live music is selected. And then what type of music do you like most? Percussive? No, I'm going to pick jazz. And so you see on the bottom the dates change, and then it gives you these 4 different performances. And this is based on some coding we did in the back that we weighted everything based on all those criteria, and we also could weight the performances on a lot of different factors depending how well they're selling. If there's a tie, it'll push the performances that needed a little more help that evening. It also pushed performances that may be a little closer in date, but primarily it's driven by the questions that people answered. And it worked really, really well. So the first year that we launched this, which was 2 years ago, we had over 10,000 visits to this tool. And in the scheme of global brands, that is not a big number, but in the scheme of one market for a new tool that we just launched, this was really great for us. We had 10,000 people go through this process. And we're selling just 5 weeks in one theater in New York City, so it's not like we have these humongous sales goals. There's significant sales goals, but $10,000 was a number we were really happy with. I'm just trying to put it in context. 25% of people who go through this experience click the Buy Tickets button, which is, we were floored by how high this was, that people were so engaged by this process that 25% of them clicked Buy Tickets. Now, 25% didn't necessarily buy at that moment, but were at least past that part and went deeper in the conversion funnel. And on average, people spent 5 minutes doing this, which we thought was amazing, that people spent 5 minutes of their time. That's a huge number compared to a lot of the engagement, which is generally around 2 to 3 minutes we see on our client sites. The tool paid for itself in just a few weeks. So it allowed us in future years to develop a mobile version, to develop a more sophisticated CMS. And so it was really, really successful for the company. Now the permission marketing piece of this is, so I was really, at the same time we launched this, I was buying a car. And I would go to these car websites and I would play with these tools and I would say, okay, I want a silver one with, with this interior. And I would get this car created, and all of a sudden this car would start following me around the web, the exact car I created. I said, well, we can do this with Ask Robert Battle. So based on how people answer these questions, we create pixel pools and we serve ads that are following up on this experience based on how you answer the questions, which really, really help support this and help drive ticket sales. So if you said you've never seen Revelations, which is that iconic work I mentioned, you start getting these quotes about how great Ailey's Revelations is. And we had a quote from Oprah Winfrey that everyone should see Revelations at least once in their life. If you say you love premieres and new productions, instead of getting a generic Ailey ad, you get something that's all about premieres and new productions. If you love classic Ailey works, you got these ads. And so these are just different variations. And these were amazing. I think these were like at a $2 CPA. The scale wasn't huge because it wasn't a huge amount of people, but the cost per acquisition was $2 to those ads, which was really incredible. So once we got people through this experience, and then we can reinforce it with really custom banner ads that were driven by how people answered. And we just created that through Google Analytics. So each time someone answered a question, it just fired an event in Google Analytics, and then we built our remarketing tags around that. The second example I want to talk about is Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival. Has anybody been to the Pillow? Anyone know what it is? Awesome, one person, cool. So Jacob's Pillow is this magical place in the Berkshire Mountains. And if you're a dance fan, they do a festival every summer. We've been working with them. We did their digital advertising and marketing last summer. We're working with them again this summer. They have different choreographers every week from around the world, from the smaller company from the Paris Opera Ballet, the smaller company from New York City Ballet, Ailey. A lot of the really big dance companies will come in there. Mark Morris. Who else? Check it out online. So they, look at this. You're sitting there with a background of the Berkshire Mountains, and you're seeing these dance performances. It's really an incredible place. They have these barns, and so if you go see performances inside, you can spend the day, you can have lunch, you can hang out and picnic. Those are actually free performances outside, and the paid performances are in the barns. But you can experience something like that for free, which is really, really amazing in that, and you can sort of see the mountains in the background there. But another thing that they do is they have this really amazing historical archive of dance photography and video over the years. And it's really, they started archiving before it was like the cool thing to do. So back to the 1930s, they have video of these amazing, like Maria Tallchief, and if you're like a huge dance fan or a huge ballet fan, this is like, golden. It's so exciting for people. And so they had this amazing archive, and they didn't quite know what to do with it, especially the video archive. So this is before we were involved working with them. They actually created an online archive that they call Dance Interactive, and you can see here some of the work that they compiled. And it's a little old-fashioned. It doesn't quite, the user experience is not great. And we're actually working with them right now to redo this. And so if anyone out there is like, if this sounds like a project that would be exciting to you, listen up. So they organize all of this here where you can search by artist, genre, era. But they also have this guess game here where you can press the guess game, and you go to this experience where it shows a video, and then you have to guess which choreographer it is. And you can go through, and if you guess right, you can either click to learn more, and it'll tell you more about the choreographer, or you can go back if you guess incorrectly. It'll give you another chance. And again, we did not work on this. I think this has a long way to go in terms of the experience, but it's actually really, really popular among dance people. And so we're working right now. We just completed an RFP to redesign it, which I will tell you a little bit about in the future. Because we're not developers. We don't develop. We do digital strategy. But the cool thing we've used about this is while people are in this experience, and if they're reading about it, this is software we have called Leadacity, which is all about permission marketing. So, and this can go on any website, but here, it comes out and just asks for an email address, goes right into your email program, and it can ask for social follows. It's a really simple piece of software, but we put this on most of our clients' websites because to do a permission-based model, obviously we need, the more email addresses we have, the more Facebook follows we have, the more people in our remarketing pool, the more tickets we can sell. So that's what that does. And then again, we do the remarketing based on people's engagement on the platform. So how did this work? Well, they get about 100,000 annual visits to this Dance Interactive. And for a small dance festival in the Berkshire Mountains, this is an amazing amount of people who really care about dance, and that could be prospects to buy tickets in the future. Having this tool increased their traffic by 25%. And the average user spends about 2 minutes and goes to 2 pages. But if you remove the bounce users, the engagement's really incredible. 6 minutes and more than 5 pages. And thousands of leads. We've collected thousands of email addresses, grew their social follows, and we've turned those people into ticket buyers over the last 2 years. So version 2.0, we're in, like I said, we just created an RFP. They're in their season right now, but starting this fall, we're going to partner with a developer and blow this out of the water. And what we're going to do is we're going to enhance and refine the navigation and the UI, make it a little less clunky and old-fashioned. It's going to be mobile first. Mobile is where people tend to watch more videos now, even than desktop. Do search engine optimization. There's some really long-term dance keywords that I think will be really great for them if we can optimize this correctly. Do a sophisticated analytics integration so we can iterate and improve the tool if we can monitor the analytics better. And have a real robust social sharing within it, because what it's really missing right now is the social piece. I was inspired by Mad Men. After you watch Mad Men, you get invited on Facebook, if you follow them, to play the game where you can answer questions about last night's episode. And there's 10 questions, and afterwards you can share with your friends and say, hey, I got 7 out of 10. Now you try. So we're going to really, think really deeply about how we can make the social experience better. So I was given 22 minutes. We're at 21 minutes. I assume that leaves 8 to 9 minutes for questions. So I'm going to open to the floor, and I hope it's not really awkward just standing up here with no one asking anything. Thank you. See, it's really awkward. No. All right. Do you want to? Sure, I can. Yeah, I mean, you can say it to me and I can repeat it. Okay. He's gonna put you on there. Yeah. Traditional marketing? Sure. Traditional or interruption. Interruption. Yeah. 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 So the question was to talk more about interruption versus permission marketing. So the funnel, I mean, it's the way Seth Godin looks at it is he talks about a funnel, and the top of that funnel is the media budget, so how much money you're spending. So organizations that have, and this is just an analogy, but organizations that have more money can pay to interrupt more people. If you can interrupt people on radio, TV, and newspaper and magazines, that costs a lot of money, but you're also going to reach a lot more people. And I mean, it's just really untargeted. Probably 98% of people you're talking to don't care. 98% of people aren't ready to buy a car, but they're watching TV, so you're going to have a ton of waste, and maybe get the 1 or 2% of people that are. So I mean, what Seth Godin talks about is taking that funnel and for permission marketing, turn it into a megaphone. So have this amazing permission-based communications where people are really psyched about what you're doing, have great content to engage people. You're not selling anything. You just have a really great newsletter, a really great point of view on social. And then once you inspire people, they become your brand evangelists, and they have that as what he talks about, a megaphone. So that word of mouth, particularly in the arts, is so. I mean, when you go to New York and you come to see a Broadway show, why are you going to go? Probably because your friend went and said it was awesome. So how can we build tools that will amplify that? And that's one of the things we're doing with Jacob's Pillow and this redesign is we want to build that social sharing, so it's organic amplification. Yeah. Is the arts different? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the question is, are people who go to the arts different than general consumers? Is there, in terms of gamification? Yeah, do you need a different approach? Well, I mean, I think the reason we've been able to grow our business and be successful is we really understand the arts consumer. And the amazing about digital is you can be so hyper targeted. Like we target, for like Ailey, we know that 80% of our ticket buyers are college educated women, 80 plus, in these 10 zip codes who like these 10 things. So through Facebook, we can hyper focus on those people, and the ROIs are insane. So I think there's some real demographic data and behavioral data that makes a lot of sense. Also think the challenge is, within the arts is, there's like, just without getting into too much boring detail, there's just infrastructure challenges. Like the ticketing systems there's actually some coming out on the market now, but you're very limited by, and I'm sure this happens in the corporate world as well, I can't necessarily speak to that, but working within the framework of the ticketing infrastructure that you have is often very challenging, particularly like if you're looking at a Broadway show, you have Broadway producers that are, own the show, you have the theater owners that control the theater, and you have the ticket seller like Ticketmaster that controls all the data. So there's all sorts of, like, working within that framework is often very challenging. Same with like Ailey. Ailey is presenting it, but they're using City Center that controls their infrastructure. So I don't know if that answered your question well, but yeah. I'm sorry, 30 plus. 80% of ticket buyers for Ailey are college-educated women over 30. Yeah, yeah. So we don't even target men on Facebook generally. Yeah. Yeah. Question was, are there suggestions for smaller arts organizations? The amazing thing about digital, if you do it well, is it's so scalable. You can spend, on a Facebook campaign or on a banner campaign, you can spend $2,000, you can spend $200,000. So this is necessary within the realm of gamification, but sponsored posts on Facebook are like, the most amazing tool to sell tickets. If you can set up the conversion tracking correctly, and you can use the CRM targeting, which is importing email addresses on Facebook, and then you can do the lookalike functionality, which matches people that look like the ticket buyers. The ROI on that, typically we're able to return between $3 and $12 for every dollar our clients give us with using the Facebook marketing platform to sell tickets. It's perfect because the demographics are perfect. The people who buy tickets tend to be on Facebook. So that's a really great tip. The challenge with digital is just the expertise, and small organizations just don't have it and can't afford to get it. So I would say come to our boot camp. And that's why we created that boot camp. Yeah. Hands-on tech in the Bay Area. Cool. Oh, cool. So they offer trainings on. Awesome. Yeah, so working on like the Google Grant program and stuff like that. Yeah, we do a lot of that as well. Yeah. Any other questions? Great, so we are pretty much out of time, so thank you guys. Hope this was useful.